everyone. I am really excited about networking with everyone out there right now. We are live on Facebook, so I want to say hi to everybody out there. It's cold here in Arizona, if you can believe that. And it's also almost the end of February, which makes me sick. I can't even believe that. I am going to bring on my first guest who has been with me. I've known him now for 12 years on the show off and on. I have with me Michael Pappaini. He's a language artist. He also has with him John Ranger, who is a fine artist. Welcome to the show. Get right up to those mics. And you got to tell everybody a little bit about what you're here for today, Michael, and what we're going to talk about.
Well, we got a lot of good projects coming up this year, and for the 2019 season, we're working on the same thing with the language arts with the posters. It's got the language art with it and the fine art that goes with it, and we're working on a little bit of conceptual things and a little bit about the showing, and we're going to get into it. But I'm really glad I got John here today.
You got to tell us, who is he?
John, first of all, John Ranger is from Ranger Marketing, but that's not my thing. My thing is John and I were lost in the 60s totally. We still haven't found ourselves out. I'm still in New York and he's still in San Francisco. We just kind of project our astro bodies here to do anything else.
I guarantee you a lot of people out there can relate.
Yeah. And I tell you what, John is the best artist since Jackson Pollock left Mesa.
You had said that to me. John, welcome to the show. Get up to the mic and tell everybody a little bit about you and kind of about your artwork.
Yeah. Well, like he said, came out of San Francisco, formerly studied under Portland Museum of Fine Arts, and that's where I got my main training. We had, I guess, been lucky, I think, to live in Scottsdale. We were out to Memphis, Tennessee, so I got different art experiences from around the U.S. Been really nice.
So for you, Arizona is the most beautiful place for art?
I like it.
Yeah. So what kind of art do you do?
A lot of American contemporary and realism too. So I'm formally trained, so it's whatever the concept demands.
Now, I know today that we're going to be talking about the art. We're also going to do a giveaway. And I'd like to talk about that right now real quickly so people can know what you've done, what you're going to do.
Well, this is a secret, so don't tell anybody.
Yeah, don't. Okay, everybody put your hands over your ears out there.
Okay. This Western thing we're doing, right? Rumor has it that the descendant of Wyatt Earp will be with us at our first show. We're trying to negotiate that with, his name is Wyatt Earp too, a good friend of mine, and we're talking about doing that because we want to start with Western and then build on from that, because Arizona's got so much history that happened during the 1800s. It's just like discovering a gold mine or something. You know, you can just go forever on writing stories, coming up with personality profiles and stuff like that. And with John doing the fine art to get your attention and then the words coming in there, I think that we're going to come up with a good one. And to start, we have a portrait of Wyatt Earp that John did that shows the real Wyatt Earp, who had blondish hair, not dark hair, and he had blue eyes. Big man, right? And we've got him down really well, and then the words that go with it kind of begin his story. And then we're going to do a series of posters with Wyatt Earp stories, and then Mattie Earp, Josephine Marcus, and all the characters that were in his life would spill over into Florence, Arizona's biggest gunfight between a sheriff and a deputy, and we're going to do that and segue over to it. So I tell you what, 2019 has a lot of things coming at it, and I'm hoping that we can show that Arizona is the place to be for history. It's the place to be to get along. There's a lot of interesting things that happen in Arizona that didn't happen anyplace else. We're out to do that narration, the poetry, the artwork, and the history.
And
all
bring
at
it
once.
together.
And bring it together.
So we've got our lines open here, and I'm going to let everyone call throughout the rest of the show. It's Wyatt Earp and it's the original Wyatt Earp with blonde hair and blue eyes, and then you have your poem that you've written that will go with it.
Right.
Okay, and here's what I know. I have to say I have seen Michael's work. You've been on my radio show many times, my television show. You've also been on my YouTube show, and I love your work. Your work, especially for when people want to do something where it's really meaningful. Something not that you just take a picture and you give it to, when you take a picture and you put words with it and you have Michael do it, it's phenomenal. So this is a signed autograph by both the artists here, the artist and the language artist. And so our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. If you're into Wyatt Earp and the Western and all of that, or if you know someone, call in here. Our number here, 602-277-5369. And toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Now, we are on a mission. I know that you are. So
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I'm combining that passion I have for the language art and the art, but I also want to do something practical out there. And recently, it is
Really? Why?
come to my attention that there is a definite lack of understanding about type 2 diabetes
Right.
that exists all over the world.
I'm going to tell the story. Is that okay?
Go ahead, sure.
Okay, this is the kind of stuff we don't go with when you and I are together.
That's right. We put that away.
But Michael, you have been diagnosed. You were diagnosed with type 2 diabetes when?
Actually, I was diagnosed when I was quite young. I was about 7, but it was the type that wasn't going to bother me until I was older. So
okay,
which
and
did
so,
happen,
but what happened was because you put it to the side and you thought, that's not going to get to me, and it's not going to get. It grew inside, and you, in the last year, you have had a tremendous amount of different things that have been going on with you. Would you like to share that?
Yes, you see, like there's your high sugars and your low sugars. Low sugars will kill you today. You pass out, go into a coma, and you die. It's real simple. There's no problem. High sugars, on the other hand, well, they're high, and everybody says they're high. You ought to do something to get it, because in time it's going to wear away your organs, your eyes, your feet, or your kidneys. Big places it hits. And like most people, I went for years saying, okay, look, low sugar is going to kill me today. High sugars are just there. They'll get me someday, but not today. So I did not pay attention to high sugars. And that cost me 3 of my toes recently.
Well, let me say, I love your work, and now what you want to do is you want to use that work to help people, bring people together. Right? And talk about anybody out there who has diabetes, anybody who knows someone who has it, knows type 2, knows what they're going through. And you're trying to make a platform for people. Go ahead. I'm going to let you talk now for the rest.
Well, I think the biggest thing, since diabetes is an individual disease, it doesn't affect the same 2 people the same way. So, and it doesn't affect the same part of the body. My mother died of complicated diabetes. She had almost every organ get infected before she died, and she died at like 60 years old, and it was a heart attack related to diabetes. Once they start cutting on you, it usually progresses. There's infections and stuff. So I've seen people, that have gone that way, and I'm saying what we need is to make it personal. It's like a battlefield. It's like the battlefield is your body. There is an enemy. In this case, there's a lot of enemies out there, but this one is called diabetes type 2. It is actively today trying to kill you. That is worth taking some time and saying, I need to learn about my enemy, I need to learn how to fight it, and I need to educate, and then I need to elucidate, and then I'm going to eradicate type 2 diabetes.
We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, I want to talk further about how you are, with what you've done by bringing John here with his art. Your language art is almost like bringing opera and poetry, music all together, correct?
Exactly.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go to a break. We have our lines open here for everyone to call in throughout the rest of the show and get the Wyatt Earp. It's a signed autograph poster that's both signed by John and by Michael. Our number here, 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Welcome back, everyone. And we're talking with Michael Pappaini. He's a language artist, and we also have has with him John Ranger, who's a fine artist. We've got our lines open here. People, I have to tell you, I've seen Michael's work. It's really beautiful. He's done lots of different things. Some of them have been for the diabetes that he's been talking about, where he kind of is bringing. We were talking about that before, like opera, bringing poetry and music together. They're also doing this with language art, which is we want to talk a little bit about what that is too, and art together. Wyatt Earp, we have our own history here, and it's wonderful history. And this particular poster is going to be signed by both of them, and it's the original, the real Wyatt Earp. Why is there a fake one?
No, it's just that
wearing a wig out there, or what?
Well, over the years, it kind of got more traditional and stuff. But the fact is, Wyatt Earp was blonde and he had blue eyes, and that's a little unusual. That's not usually the way Hugh Bryan portrayed him on the television.
So this is the real one.
This is
he had blonde hair and blue eyes.
Real photographs. It was made for some real interesting resource materials we found. So this is the real Wyatt Earp. We've got a picture of him. John did it. Yeah. I did the language art, and I think this is going to be a great poster. And everyone who calls today is going to get a signed copy of it, signed and dated. You keep it until we die. It's got to be worth at least $24. When because that's.
I love that.
That'd be worth it.
So you can call in here. Our number here is 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Maybe you know somebody who would like it. That's what I love about the show. It's not just who you're talking to, but who you know as well out there. So call in here, get entered in to win at 602-277-5369. Everybody's going to get entered in to win.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you were talking about, how you like opera, bringing poetry and music together. Let's talk about that.
Well, that started it back in 1992 when I first came up with this concept of what I wanted to do with the poetry. I didn't want to write a book. Because, a book of poetry, you read like a novel, one page after another. It gives you poetic indigestion. People don't do it. You get yourself a book of poetry, read one page, put it down,
walk away. That's what's happening to me. I have poetic indigestion. That's
That's exactly
terrible.
Too much. I have one poem stands alone. So I decided to rip out the page, do posters instead of a book. So, it's worked out because people will... they'll like a poem or they'll like a situation, but a whole book of them, they'll say, well, I read this, that, or the other thing. I'm saying, no, let's get individual attention. And then I came across this phrase by Mozart, who said about opera, which is the music, because there's songs out there, and if you write poetry or language art today, they say, well, you should be a lyricist, that's the only way. No, I'm saying, why? First of all, it doesn't work because of what Mozart said. Mozart said, and I will quote this, I got it written down here, in 1781, he said to his father, in an opera, the poetry must be altogether the obedient daughter of the music. Which is why you can have a bad libretto and still have a good opera, because it's the music people go home and remember. Now, that's key. Now, I'm saying, okay, so the music is predominantly the art and the poetry is the obedient daughter to it. And I'm saying, well, I don't like that. I like the poetry part, and let's not have her to be obedient daughter. Who likes obedient daughters,
I didn't know anybody had one.
Not anymore. But I went out and said, no, they should be equal. The art should be equal to the poem. I love, like, giving John a poem, and he does whatever art comes in his head. I don't say anything about it. He comes up with the art that describes those emotions in the poem. And then I'll do the same thing. I remember I was walking down, he's got a 2-story house, so back when I could walk, I was walking down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs is the most beautiful portrait. It just stunned me right there, and I sat down and wrote a poem for it right there. Now that's one of the posters.
So you guys collaborate, sort of like Elton John and what is his name?
Bernie Taupin.
What's his Bernie Taupin. Same thing. It happens to you. I also have to tell people out there that what's really neat about Michael is that you can also hire him to do a poem. You could have your own. Let's say you have a picture of somebody that you have a grandfather or someone that your mother or whoever, a daughter, anybody that you want to have him take and make that picture come alive by language art, you can do.
That's right, and it becomes immortal because you not
And
only
your
have
pets,
the.
too.
You know,
He does that,
funny.
too.
I did one. Somebody came to me and said that they had a pet that they love very much, and the pet died and stuff. They wanted me to do something. I did something, and I tell you what, I've got that poem, and when people read it, they cry.
I know.
They got the artwork is perfect for the poem, and the poem is perfect for the artwork. It really works. And to do that, then you can hang in your house or in the room, whatever. It's like, it makes it real. You walk in and say, well, wait a minute, is that a picture of a dog? Did you used to have a dog? No, this was so-and-so. This had a name. You know, it had a personality. It was part of the family. This is what you want to say. You want to honor those living beings, whether they're animals or whether they're family members or whether they're friends. You know, you want them up there and say, I want to say what I want to say about them. So I have developed this technique of interviewing people, finding out how they feel about this other person or the person they want me to do about. And then I take that and I just wordsmith it from there on using their emotions. So the final product is about how they feel, not how about I feel. So
right, and so you're finding out from them. Let me tell you, it's wonderful to have your pictures come alive, whether it's through your own pictures, or maybe you even want to have some of the history, the art that they are bringing out from Old West here right in Arizona. Right now we have our lines open here, and everyone can call throughout the rest of the show for a signed autograph by both of the artists here. Wyatt Earp poster of the original, real Wyatt Earp with the blonde hair and blue eyes, not the brown. Our number here, 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. How do you plan to bring all of this that you're talking about to the world? Through me. Right? Networking.
If
it makes a difference.
Anything from you, it's been networking. So I'm saying good. So I need to get out there and do some things. So I was talking to your magnificent social media person who's encouraging me to get out there. You know, I have to give talks, and I'm saying, well, I don't know about talking about poetry, because I have this thing about doing an autopsy on a ballerina dancer isn't going to tell you much about ballet.
Right.
So why take something apart like poetry? Like, look, when you take a poetry course, my God, look what they do in class. They take it apart, cut it, shake it up, put it in the back, and say, this is not what it's for. It's supposed to be feeling. So we want to get back to talking about it, but this is the way we're going to do it. During the day, we have gallery showing. Nothing for sale, gallery showing. In a room, go in and look at it. That's it. A little bit of tea, cookies.
When is that? Where is that?
When we will hold different events in gallery.
That's
showing.
coming down the pipe.
Right. And then afterwards, say about 4 o'clock, then John and I, or whoever the artist would be, or the language art, will be there to discuss the artwork. And again, there will be a charge for that lecture because things cost money, right? But the gallery showing, nothing for sale. At the lecture, there's nothing for sale. There is no out in the lobby selling things. No. What you do is you give out the cards and you say, this is what we do. We're saying this is what we do. If you have an interest in it, give us a call, and then we'll sit down and we'll either do an original one for somebody you knew, which is very good, and I think everyone would like that, or we can find one of the ones I've already done that fits in and use that as a print for an artwork.
Right. So this is just an awesome way that you want to, the art. It's the arts. And it's the language art. Tell them what a language art means.
Well, language arts, I think, is what to call it properly, because to call it poetry, I've been down in Bisbee and places in New York City and Greenwich Village and Haight and Ashbury, and you say, well, I'm a poet, and what do poets do? They do what they do because they're poets. I'm saying, what a bunch of pretentious, insecure people. You're a language art. It's like an artist puts color on paper. How well he does it makes him an artist, not the fact he's putting color on paper. When you put a word on paper, that don't make you a poet. That makes you putting words on paper, which is a language artist.
Which is about as far as I can go.
Right. And a language artist say, well, I want it to be art, but let's see. Poetry is not something I can say. It's something someone else needs to say. Say, my God, that's poetic. That's poetry. Good. That's their thing. I just do the wordsmithing or the language art, and I hope that some of it reaches the exalted status of poetry. I mean, it's a great compliment to me when someone says about one of my works is poetry, but it's not everything I write. I think it's too pretentious to do that. So language art turns into poetry. Throwing color on paper turns into Jackson Pollock.
What would be your final words, John?
Well, I think the concept, there was a lot of motivation after reading a lot of the word stuff. I think it's great. You get in there and it moves you a little bit.
So what are we going to do? How are we going to eradicate with type 2 diabetes right now for everybody listening, real quickly?
Education is first. Networking and education, and that will lead to an attack. That will lead to a strategy, and each individual takes care of their own case of diabetes, and we will eradicate this thing.
Well, an eclectic kind of a segment today, but it's all about language art and bringing music and poetry and art together. The number to call here is 602-277-5369.